Hey guys, Sasha from Mobile Geeks here, and I'm wondering if you remember the time where phones used to look like this. Well, okay, I cheat a little bit here because this isn't a phone, this is the iPod, but I mean the iPhone pretty much had the kind of screen, 3.5 inch, and I've been a huge fan of this BlackBerry Bold over here, and this is actually my very first Android phone. This is the HTC Desire. I bought it about almost like 4 years ago. Well, there are still small form factor phones around, and I kind of like this one. This is the Sony Xperia Z1 Compact, 4.3 inch, absolutely powerful device, Qualcomm Snapdragon 800, 20 megapixel camera. But I also have to admit that my daily driver is the Samsung Galaxy Note 3. I'm all about phablets. So this is 5.7 inch. I even have a Sony Xperia Z Ultra 6.4 inch. But you know what? Let's forget about all of this and let's talk about the most successful category in the smartphone market. And now watch out, this amazing transition here. Woo-hoo-hoo! Welcome to the 5-inch category. So I have a bunch of 5-inch devices and actually would love to do a little bit of a quick and dirty comparison and give you, my own thoughts and my own, kind of perspective on which is my favorite or whatnot. Regarding all of these devices. So let's start over here from the left. Well, this is the smallest one in terms of the display. This is the HTC One, and then we have a Nexus 5, then there's a Samsung Galaxy S4, the Samsung Galaxy J, and on the far right we have the LG G2. Talking about screen sizes, let's begin with this. I already told you, this is 4.7 inch 1080p. HTC is using a Super LCD 3 panel. The Nexus 5 comes with a 5-inch display, and it's using a 2 IPS, or they call it 2 HD, right? It's a 1080p IPS Plus display. The Samsung Galaxy S4 is, of course, using a Super AMOLED display. 1080p is the resolution again. It's the same with the Samsung Galaxy J over here, which is only getting sold in Taiwan and especially in Japan. 1080p Super AMOLED display. And on the far right, we have a 5.2 inch device, which also comes with an IPS display. This is the LG G2, and once again, this is a resolution of 1080p. So 4.2 inch compared to 4.7 inch compared to 5.2 inch. You know what? Let's do a quick size comparison, and you can definitely tell this 0.5 additional inch is just a massive difference, even though that the housing itself, the case itself, it seems to be even higher on the HTC One. I mean, look at these thin bezels on the LG G2. I think it looks absolutely spectacular. Let's switch this one on again. Let's talk a little bit about SoCs in these devices. They're pretty much all the same in terms of the performance. We have on the HTC One, we have the Qualcomm Snapdragon 600. That's a quad core, and this is running at 1.7 gigahertz. Then on the Nexus 5, we have the Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 quad core running at 2.3 gigahertz. It's the same with the Samsung Galaxy S4 when you're getting the version for the Western market. This is the one for the Asian market with the Exynos 5410. This is a kind of big little technology octa-core. So you're getting 4 Cortex-A7s and 4 Cortex-A15 cores. On the Samsung Galaxy J, once again, Qualcomm Snapdragon 800. And guess what they put into the LG G2? Yeah, well, of course, Qualcomm Snapdragon 800. Once again, in terms of the performance, they're pretty close to each other, especially when you're, of course, using the Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 in the Samsung Galaxy S4. I'm not a huge fan of the very first, well, it's not the very first Exynos Octa. That's the 5410. I still think that the Qualcomm Snapdragon 800 in terms of the sheer performance, and especially the GPU performance, is almost half a generation ahead of this 5410 Exynos. The HTC One is using a slightly different one, Snapdragon 600, only at 1.7 gigahertz. Still a very, very fast SoC, but in terms of raw power, when you're running some benchmarks on these devices, they will outperform the HTC One. Once again, you know what? This is enough performance. This is all you need. Seriously, even though when you're doing the latest 3D games. What's also different when we're talking about the screens, and I kind of forgot this, is you know, I'm putting these phones in my pocket all the time, and sometimes I'm not using a sleeve, so I want to make sure that they're scratch resistant. They're all using Corning Gorilla Glass. Slightly different versions of it. So the Samsung Galaxy S4 and the Nexus 5 and the Galaxy J, they're using Corning Gorilla Glass 3, while the LG G2 and the HTC One, they're using Corning Gorilla Glass 2. What's also important is in terms of the cameras, there are quite some differences. Let me just turn these devices around. Whoa, 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 whoa. Jesus, 5 devices. So let's start here on the left again with the HTC One. This one is using a 4 megapixel camera. You might wonder, who's using a 4 megapixel camera in 2014? Well, it's originally from 2013. But this is called kind of ultra pixel technology. So even though it only has 4 megapixel, it's still coming up with a pretty amazing image quality. On the Nexus 5, we have an 8 megapixel camera. On the Samsung Galaxy S4, we have a 13 megapixel camera. On the J, we have a 13 megapixel camera. And on the G2, we have a 13 megapixel camera. What's my favorite here? Definitely the G2, because it also offers you an optical image stabilizer, which makes it a huge difference, especially when you're taking pictures in a low light environment. You know what? This is kind of tricky to constantly keep these phones on, even though that I set it to, oh Jesus, like 10 minutes or 30 minutes right now. But anyways, you can see my struggle, and you're gonna enjoy it here. It's kind of interesting. They all switched off as soon as I turned them into their displays. So here we go again. In terms of the front-facing cameras, they're pretty much the same. They're all in this kind of 2 megapixel region. Good enough to do your favorite selfies for Instagram. Still, the next generation will sport almost like 5 megapixel, which is going to be very, very interesting to see. And what else do we have here? Of course, we have internal memory. This is kind of variation between 2 gigabytes and 3 gigabytes. This comes with 2 gigabytes, this comes with 2 gigabytes, this comes with 2 gigabytes. This comes with 2 gigabytes of internal memory and RAM, and this comes with 2 gigabytes of RAM. So forget about the difference between 2 and 3 gigabytes, but the next generation, they're all going to sport 3 gigabytes. When it comes to internal storage, you know what, they're all sporting in between like 16 and 64 gigabyte of internal storage. So there's a 60 and 32. There is only no, not only, there's a 60 and 32 with the Nexus 5. The Samsung Galaxy S4 comes at 16, 32 and 64. There's a 16 and 32 for the Samsung Galaxy J and a 16 and 32 for the LG G2. What's very important when you're using a mobile device, I'm always saying, you know, never compromise on battery life. So what kind of batteries do we have in here? Unfortunately, the HTC One only sports a capacity of 2300 milliampere hours, while the Nexus 5 also comes in with 2300 milliampere hours. The Galaxy J and the Galaxy S4 are sporting a 2600 milliampere hour battery, and the LG G2 comes with a massive 3000 milliampere hour battery, which is absolutely amazing. You can easily get through the whole day. Even a guy like me who is just using like 4 or 5 Gmail accounts, constantly syncing them. I mean, you saw this on my note here. I mean, look at this notification bar, right? I'm gonna clear this right now, and in 15 minutes, it will look like this again. So, told you about the battery capacity. Once again, the LG G2 definitely comes out on top, while the HTC One is lacking a little bit. Sometimes you really need to be a little bit aware of your battery life at the end of the day. Last but not least, well, we should take a look at the cases, or how thick and how thin they are. And let me just try to set it up like this because there are some slight differences here. Okay, now look at this. Here we go. Can you see that? Let's start from the bottom. That's the HTC One. The HTC One comes in at 9.3 millimeters. Okay, here we go. The Nexus 5, 8.6 millimeters. The Samsung Galaxy S4, 7.9 millimeters. The Galaxy J, 8.6 millimeters. And the LG G2, 8.9 millimeters. Also, in terms of the weight, they're pretty much the same. Right? The HTC One is 143 grams, like the LG G2. So 143, both of them. And then we have the Samsung Galaxy J, which comes in at 146 grams. And then we have also the Nexus 5 at 130 grams, which is the same as the Samsung Galaxy S4. This is also 130 grams, right? Well, to kind of sum it up, right? All of these phones are absolutely amazing devices, right? As you can tell, of course, they're also sporting different launches, and each and every manufacturer is putting its very, very unique and personal touch all over it. If you want to go for a very clear vanilla experience of Android, well, this is of course the Nexus 5. You can be sure that you're always getting the latest Android version. What I don't like about the Nexus 5, what I don't like about the HTC One and the LG G2 is they don't sport a micro SD card slot, so you just can't upgrade the internal storage. You can do this with a Samsung Galaxy S4 and also with the Samsung Galaxy J. So you can squeeze like 64 gigabyte micro SD card in there, and there you go. You will have enough storage for all your music, for your movies, for your games, apps, blah, 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 whatever, right? So the other devices are kind of lacking a little bit. But, you know, there's something more to a smartphone in these days. I think these are our most personal devices, and therefore I'm also looking at the design. What I love about the LG G2 is, I mean, this display is absolutely gorgeous. Look how thin the bezels are. I mean, this is all display. Right? If you compare this to the HTC One, which has these front-facing speakers, right? This is of course a little bit different, but I mean the overall design of the HTC One. Well, these guys were setting a whole new benchmark for the design of Android smartphones, and I still think this is an absolutely timeless design. You can still put it on a table next to an iPhone in about 2 years, right? And people will still ask you, wow, this is a beautiful phone. In terms of the Samsung Galaxy S4 and the Samsung Galaxy J, you're getting something, oh well, the J is kind of more edgy, the Samsung Galaxy 4 is quite round, it's light, it's very thin, but I mean, they're also very plasticky in my opinion. I really like the Nexus 5, which is kind of an LG G2 with a slightly different case, but this is just a very, very clean and good-looking device. As you can see, it's manufactured by LG. Plus, it is that cheap. This starts at $349 right now in the US. So, you know what, the best phone, the best 5-inch phone is always the phone that you love. It's really, really hard for me to really do a recommendation about which phone is the best. When you're looking for a cheap and inexpensive device and you love this pure Android experience, geez, you have to go for the Nexus 5. But, you know what, on the flip side, it also only sports a 2300 mAh battery, like the HTC One, which is for me a little bit of a problem. If you love to listen to music, especially without headphones, and if you love a cool and great build quality and a timeless design, I think the HTC One with these front-facing speakers is an amazing device. Well, there will be a new one coming up very, very soon. If you like features, then you have to go whether for the Samsung Galaxy S4 or the Samsung Galaxy J. Holy shit, Samsung is just squeezing a shitload of features in there. Whether it's kind of eye gazing and eye tracking, or the way you can use gestures with these devices, they are absolutely amazing. But you know what? I have a very, very personal favorite here, and this is the LG G2. This is the best camera, this is the best battery life, this is the best display in my opinion, And to be honest, I think the whole package of the LG G2 beats these other devices. So let me know in the comments, what's your personal favorite? Do you have one of these devices? And if you do so, please let me know which one you like and why you like it. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, it's up there. Subscribe to it. If you have any questions, leave me a comment. And I'm still Sascha from Mobile Geeks. Thanks for watching.